folks, welcome back to another top 10 list with me all by my lonesome. I'm going to talk about my top 10 games from WizKids. Now, these are board games, not necessarily going to be card games or anything like that, or any of the other games that WizKids may be really known for, so I don't want to get your hopes up here because there's probably going to be, at least in your mind, some glaring omissions, and that's simply because I'm not into that kind of game. For example, HeroClix. Not really my style. The other one, Mage Knight, didn't really enjoy that one a lot. So, Attack Wing, didn't enjoy that one either very much either. So, I mean, you know, there's going to be some omissions. You're going to say, why didn't he include this game? And why didn't he? It's such a great game. That may be true for you, but not for me. So just take that for what it's worth. These are my top 10 games from WizKids, so let's get to it. All right, my number 10 is the Dungeons & Dragons board games that have been coming out. For example, Temple of Elemental Evil, Tomb of Annihilation, those things. And the reason I included this is because I thought they were a great hybrid between what would be considered an RPG and a board game. And it gave you that RPG-ish feel on a very light, basic level, but it was still a pretty solid game as well. Plus, the miniatures were pretty cool, and if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, they were all pre-painted miniatures as well, which I think is pretty cool too. But I'm not really, man, I'm pretty sure they are. But you get the idea. I included this on my top 10 because I liked how, for the first time, at least in my experience, it brought those two worlds together. So I liked it and I enjoyed it. It squeaked in at number 10. That's Dungeons & Dragons, the board game. My number 9 is another game that when it came out, I was wowed by the production level, and this is Assault of the Giants. Now, Assault of the Giants came out with these huge miniatures, and they were almost just figureheads, basically, for the clan or the kind of the race of giants that you were actually playing. But I really enjoyed this, and it was really cool to see all those different pieces on the board, and the gameplay was really fun as well. I loved how you had these variable player powers of your kind of giants were just a little bit stronger in this area than everybody else was, and or in this, not area on the board, but just this type of thing. They were better at doing this thing than somebody else. And I really enjoyed that. I thought it was a cool theme as well, because you have these huge giants on the board that were fighting against each other, but then you also had all of these different smaller units that were fighting against them as well and against each other. It was a really fun area control-ish type of game, and I just enjoyed it a lot. So that's Assault of the Giants, my number 9. My number 8, I am not a Magic the Gathering player or even fan for that matter, but Magic the Gathering Heroes of Dominaria was a really fun game to play. It was really Euro-ish in how it carried out a lot of resource management, unlocking all of these different things that you can do by building different kinds of roads, or rather, connections and buildings and all this other kind of stuff on the board. But I loved the mechanism of when you build something, you get something. When you build this, you get that. And it's just a way for you to make yourself a little bit more powerful as, I believe, one of the planeswalkers in the Magic the Gathering universe. And I just thought it was a neat adaptation of the Magic the Gathering universe to a board game. And I think it's one of the first times that they've really kind of done a very good job at adapting that universe, but also had a really neat game to adapt it with. So I thought it was a great step in the right direction for that Magic the Gathering universe, and it was a fun game. I think WizKids did well on this. That's my number 8, Magic the Gathering Heroes of Dominaria. Number 7 is a card game called Endless Saga, the Viking, or rather Endless Pass, a Viking saga. Sorry. But this was a neat game where you're simply trying to fight your way through this pass between two rocks, and you're being ambushed by all of these bad guys, and you're trying to fight your way through that without losing your health, and you have all of these different things. Had a little bit of a take that element to it, because you could basically pass your turn and leave the next guy with a really bad situation that he has to kind of try to fight through. So it has a little bit of a take that element to it, but not so much that it soured me on the rest of the game. This wasn't the production value. Now, it turns out the review that I did of this game, the production value of the copy that I had was actually, and I didn't know this, it was kind of a prototype-ish, a very final prototype version, and it had a just lackluster quality. Well, when I did my review, they didn't know that they had sent me that prototype version, and so they sent me another copy, and the other copy was fine as far as the production value was concerned. But I really did enjoy the game. That was one of my main things about it during the review, was that the production quality just seemed kind of lackluster. So, but I enjoyed it nonetheless, and the cover was, boring, to say the least. But, as you can see here. Anyway, that's my number 7, Endless Pass, A Viking Saga. My number 6 is Marvel Dice Masters, because I am a Marvel fan, and I do enjoy Dice Masters, but I'm not so up on everything else that's there. I don't really even like the 40K version of the Dice Masters, because it just, to me, the superhero thing is how Dice Masters was introduced to me. So when they started bringing in, Dungeons and Dragons and 40K and all of this other stuff, I was like, yeah, Marvel is even the DC stuff, I was like, because I'm not really a DC fan, that was like, nah, whatever. But Marvel Dice Masters is my favorite version of Dice Masters, so it's going to hold this place for me. But I do enjoy the system. I like it's one of the few kinds of games that where I'm pulling stuff out of a bag and rolling them, or pulling stuff out of a bag, period. Usually I don't like that kind of mechanism, but it's okay here because usually you can do something with it. But often with those pulling something out of the bag mechanisms that are used in games, it's either a hit or miss. And that just rubs me the wrong way. But Marvel Dice Masters has been really fun. You can draft your starting team, and those are the dice that you get, and how strong your character is determines. It's just a lot of fun to play the game, and it's just rolling dice and using the face that comes up in the most optimal way that you possibly can. I did enjoy it a lot, but Marvel Dice Masters is my favorite. So that's my number 6. Now my number 5 is the game that preceded Marvel Dice Masters. And for a while, I thought that Dice Masters was just kind of a knockoff to my number 5, Quarriors. Now, Quarriors has that thing where they use QU for the beginning of a lot of different words, quartifacts and all this other kind of stuff. And it could probably rub you the wrong way if you just pay attention too much to it. But if you just accept it and move on, then it's fine. But I really feel like Quarriors is slightly a little bit of a better game. That's my opinion. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me, and they think Dice Masters is the bee's knees and all this other kind of stuff. But I like Quarriors a little bit better than Dice Masters, and that's why it's just simply one space higher on my list. Even though in my opinion, they're pretty much the same game. But I just enjoy it more. Maybe it's because I had it before I had Dice Masters, so maybe that has something to do with it, but I really enjoy Quarriors. I liked the artwork, I liked the dice that were in there, and I liked all of the different variations and varying ways that you could play the game, different things that you can do, the different powers that you could have out there. I just really enjoyed it. So that is my number 5, Quarriors. My number 4 is the game called Lancelot. Now, Lancelot on the cover of the game looks beautifully produced, and when you open the box, it's not as pretty, but it's still very well done. There is a little bit of a disparity between the artwork that's on the box and the artwork that's inside the box. Not that it's a vast difference, but the outside of the box, it looks a little bit, I guess you could say, more elegant. On the inside of the box, it's pretty much, you have this mechanism where you're traveling around, you're basically vying for, to be voted in, I guess you could say, to be the next king to replace Arthur. And you're going around trying to build up your stats on these different things, and you're trying to get most points by the end of the game. But it has the mechanism where you can stop here, but you can't go back. And so you can go as far as you want around this course that that is comprised on the board, but you can never go back until you go around all the way. So I like mechanisms that do that, because it makes you make choices that you kind of have to live with. You can't ever, oh, well, I got this, well, I really need that, let's go back and get that. You can't do that in this game, and I really do enjoy that. So I enjoyed the game more, I guess you could say, for its theme than anything else, but the mechanisms are pretty fun as well. So I did enjoy it. I mean, good night. It's my number 4 out of 10, so that is how much I enjoyed it, but enjoyed it? Wow. I think I'm just going to stop and move on to my number 3. My number 4, Lancelot. My number 3 is a game called Warhammer Age of Sigmar, The Rise and Fall of Anvilor. And that is a mouthful, so I'm just going to get it out now and move on. This is a game where you're basically going to, first of all, choose the attacking horde that is attacking Anvilor, and then you're also going to choose the strength at which you're going to be able to, that horde is going to be attacking. Then you're also going to be able to choose what factions of heroes, so to speak, that are going to be defending the city together from the oncoming hordes. Now, this is not a cooperative game. It's not even semi-cooperative. It's very much in your face. However, there are some cooperative elements. For example, all of the different hero units can support each other as they fight. But just keep in mind, this is not a cooperative or a semi-cooperative. It is very much a competitive game, and you can really go after people as you are going through the game. You can choose, to an extent, where these different hordes can attack, and you can choose a row as long as you roll the right number die, and have them attack an entire row of your opponent's characters and not your own. And so you're pretty much, that's the kind of things you're doing. At the end, you simply want the most points, and whoever does have the most points is the winner. But during the game, it's pretty cutthroat, but it's still fun. And I think the tile laying aspect of it is one of the things that drew me in. But the universe and the different factions that are employed, the different bad guy hordes that are out there, they were all very thematic as well. So I did enjoy the game a lot. My number 3, Warhammer Age of Sigmar, The Rise and Fall of Anvilor. My number 2 is the Expanse board game. Now, I've watched the part of the first season of the show, the TV show, so I don't think I would call myself a fan of the TV show. I liked a lot of what I've seen, but not all of it, but it's a cool show. So saying that, my liking of the IP didn't carry over to the game. And normally I wouldn't necessarily like games like this, but I did like this one. I liked the different player powers that each faction has. I like how you can kind of muscle your way into an area, or you can very surreptitiously take control of different planets in the solar system and stuff like that. I enjoyed how everything worked together, even though much, I wouldn't even say much, some of the game I don't necessarily like by itself. How everything worked together is what I really enjoyed. And I do, the designer, Geoff Engelstein, he's a great guy. And I've always, every time he comes out with a game, I'm like, man, I hope I like this one, because he just comes out with games that I just don't enjoy. This one was the first one that I really enjoyed. And so there's not nostalgia there. It's just a matter of factness. I really enjoyed this game, and it's my number 2, the Expanse board game. And finally, my number 1, if you know me at all, if you've watched any of our top 100s or anything like that, you probably knew this one was coming. This is probably my favorite trick-taking game, and that is called Tournament at Camelot. I love the idea behind the game. I love the graphic design of the game. It has that very old English style of artwork to it that probably rubs people the wrong way, but I really like it. Has a very historical look to it, a very legendary look to it as well, because it has that look like you're flipping through an old history book in England or something like that, and it has all this very ornate stuff on the outsides and the old English letter type on the end, on the mid. It's just, I love the way the game looks, and I love the way the game plays. It's a trick-taking game where you have special abilities and powers that your team of people can use against other people, and basically you're trying to whittle down the other knights as far as you can. When somebody hits 0, well, then the game's over, and whoever has the most health left at the tournament or during the tournament is the winner. Each of the different cards reacts with other kinds of cards throughout the game as well. I just really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. The component quality is really great too. It has tarot-sized cards on it, and so I just really enjoy this game a lot. And I've talked about it a lot in the past, so I'll let it lie here. But my number one is Tournament at Camelot. And so that's that for my top 10 WizKids games. I hope you did enjoy it. I know you're going to let me know where I was wrong and what games I missed, even though I kind of prefaced my entire list at the beginning with that idea. But please, come on, let me know what you think your top 10 WizKids games are. What games did I miss and why, and all this other kind of stuff. So thank you for joining me. I certainly appreciate it. And we'll see you guys and gals on the flip side. Take care now.